Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to scare you. That's a lie. I did mean to scare you. It's just that October's got me thinking about the scariest game I've ever had to stop playing. This is coming from someone who loves watching and creating horror films. You see, I'm obsessed with the genre of horror and understanding what makes them tick. So that's what's got me thinking, what makes Resident Evil 7 so scary from a filmmaker's perspective? When you play a game in the first person, you don't often think of the camera as a camera. You think of it as your head. Stick with me, because in Resident Evil 7, it is as if your head is attached to a camera with a very long lens. The field of view, or FOV in gaming terms, is condensed. In filmmaking, that is shooting on a lens with a very long focal length. It compresses your world, brings the background closer, and eliminates those peripherals. In horror, it makes you feel trapped. This is something I immediately felt when I started the game. You enter an abandoned guest house on a Louisiana property to find your missing wife, Mia. Everything in your view feels tight in a suffocating tunnel of vision. You're forced to stare directly ahead of you, and turning could mean revealing something that's been just out of sight all along. It's terrifying. I think of it like wearing a helmet, or when you haven't had time to defrost your windshield on a cold winter day, and you choose to take a treacherous drive, staring through only a hole that has warmed and dissipated from the ice. You're focused, honed in, and somehow more aware of the dangers that could be lurking just out of view. This is where your other senses seem to heighten, and you sit forward a little more, focused, or maybe even frightened. By choosing this lens in which we see the world of Resident Evil, we're forced into it, leaving the possibility of something frightening just out of sight being more scary than if there actually was something. And that's the magic of it. The camera is participating in the fear rather than just showing it. Now, if the narrow lens is immersion, the dinner scene is composition. Resident Evil does something called Tableau Horror. A tableau is basically a still image that tells a story through its composition. It's not about movement or editing, it's about stillness. It forces you to stare at something wrong for too long. And that's exactly what happens here. You, Ethan, wake up at the table, and the camera, your point of view, is locked. You can't look away, you can't stand up. You're just forced to watch. And the more you see, the worse this situation gets. Every detail in the frame tells you who these people are. Jack's grotesque stoicism, Marguerite's twitchy demeanor, Lucas's cruel smirk. Right off the rip, you know what you're in for. And some of the characters you're about to spend a lot more time with. Typically when you shoot horror films, you understand that lighting is less about aesthetics or visibility and more about control. Resident Evil 7 uses light to control what you can see, and more importantly, what you can't see. For the sake of this video, let's distill lighting setups to their most basic that cinematographers use on just about everything. A key light, a fill light, and a backlight. The key light is like your main light. You see this bright side of my face. We have our fill light off to the side that fills in the shadows, and backlight, well, it's behind me and it outlines me to pull me away from the background. When all three are balanced, you get clarity and depth. You can see the character and their world. But in horror, that balance is thrown out with purpose. Directors and DPs oftentimes remove the fill light completely, letting darkness swallow half the frame. Sometimes even more than that, they'll remove almost all light entirely. When it's used, you start scanning the darkness for something to be there. Like when you were a kid in your room with only the moonlight coming through your window, and you swear you saw something over by your closet move. The Baker house is constantly underlit. Flashlights carve the darkness into tiny controlled pieces. The further your light stretches, the deeper the shadows seem to swallow everything else. Sconces on the walls at the end of a hallway being your only hope to see what's lurking about. Which is why it feels so good when you get to a safe room, bathed in light. But do not be deceived. Those moments of peace and safety are just there to disarm you before the next big scare.
Don't you worry.
Pacing and editing are the invisible hands of horror. In film, tension builds through contrast. A long, still shot, broken by a jump scare or something violent. Resident Evil 7 understands that rhythm instinctively. A recent trend I've loved seeing over the past decade is the rise of comedians making horror films. Jordan Peele and Zach Kreger come to mind. By juggling you back and forth between comedic scenes and horrifying ones, they're fattening you up for the slaughter. Because if you're expecting something scary and your guardrails are up, you've done your prep for when it strikes. But if you're stripped of your preparations and you're disarmed by thinking you're safe in a room with bright lights and the means to save your game progress, you've only been manipulated. Reset. It's this roller coaster of tension that allows you to be scared over and over and over again. Think of the moment Jack burst through the wall in the hallway. The sequence just before is deathly still. Soft ambient hum, footsteps creaking. The game holds the silence until it becomes unbearable. Then that cut, whether in editing or event timing, is what makes you jump. The game knows when to snap, not just how. The rhythm is irregular, just like your pulse. As a filmmaker, I can appreciate every single decision that went into this game. But as a human, I shit my pants and quit the game. You can analyze it, you can deconstruct it, you can admire it shot for shot, but eventually it moves on from being more than just a movie. You study it. It becomes one you're trapped in. What the? And my dog just found his way down here. Thanks for watching. And I'd love to know what movies or video games you just couldn't finish. Leave a comment down below. Speaking of down below, I think this is the longest time I've ever spent in the crawl space of my house. I hope there's not a brown recluse or something down here. We should probably get going before your mom gets mad at us.